So, a few weeks ago, we started this new sermon collection called Unlimited. And we've been seeking to help you understand that though we are limited and finite, that we serve a God who is unlimited. And last week, we had our Vision Sunday. Anybody here for our Vision Sunday? Man, pumped about that. As you know, we are trying to raise $100,000 over the course of the next few weeks. And I know for some of you, you're like, yo, that's a big goal. For others of you, you're like, I can write the check right now. Write it. Go ahead and do it. But we realize that, man, we love the Marion House. We love being in here, but we do need either something to help unlimit us. In a few minutes, you're going to hear your kids yelling. Shout out to your children yelling. I love that. But what we need is maybe a headquarters where we can have offices, or where we can put something together where we can have trainings, or perhaps as a key staff member. We're not sure exactly what it is, but we're open to God helping us become unlimited. And one of the big things I've been trying to help us do in this sermon collection is help our faith become unlimited. Because here's the thing, when life starts lifing, it can severely compromise the robust nature of our faith. I'm not talking about our belief in God necessarily, but I'm referring more to our ability to believe that God can make the intangible tangible and the supernatural natural. It hurts our ability. So today, we want to pick up in this series, and I'm hoping, as we've talked about, that your faith is spurred on. That you'll be able to look at this sermon series and say, or this sermon collection in a few years and say, hey, that was when I was inspired to take the next step in life. That's when I was inspired to start that business, or to join that church, or to take that next step that helped propel me into the destiny that God has for me. But today I want to just take a moment to talk to all those people who might feel like they're settling in life. All those people who feel like, hey, I'm making the life that I'm currently living is not in line with the life that I believe God has for me. I'm compromising in a myriad of different ways. I'm adjusted my preferred form of living in order to shrink into what I'm currently in. Let me start with this sermon illustration. I think it'll help you. I don't know if you know this, but when I first moved to Camden, I was actually a dog breeder. Can you believe that? I was a dog breeder. We had a kennel called New City Bullies. New City Bullies. Now, this is very interesting because I'm actually allergic to dogs as well. So that created a very, very unique situation in the Grant household, as you can imagine, that I'm petting the dog and sneezing simultaneously. But when we moved to Camden in 2011, we were trying to figure out ways to make inroads into the community. Like, how do we build relationships and develop community with the people in Camden? And what I began to notice is that people were walking around these English bulldog / American pit bull terrier looking animals that were real buff and big, but kind of docile. And I was like, yo, what are those dogs? They're like, they're American bullies. I was like, I've never heard of that before, but guys, maybe we should be a part of this American bully situation. And so we got some dogs, right? Had no idea what we were doing. But then I later found out you got to pour some concrete. So we poured some concrete in the backyard. We bought some kennels off Craigslist. I learned how to give shots. I learned how to give dewormer. I was like veterinarian Dr. Ern back then, right? I knew how to do artificial insemination. Don't ask me about it. I don't want to answer any questions. I learned about progesterone and catching the dog in heat, all that. Let's not even go down this road. But I was hoping that we were going to make an impact. I was hoping that we were going to build relationships in Camden and all that. And listen, guys, it was going good at first. My dog came in heat, and I had my first litter. This was the actual picture of the breeding pair here. It was with a dog. You can put it up there. It was a dog called Suge White. Come on, somebody. Suge White, yes. I had a lot of different names for dog, but I had Suge White, and that was my dog on the other side named Black Ice. Come on. Black Ice, her brother was a grand champion, man. And so Suge White unfortunately passed away, but I had one of the last litters, y'all. And so she ended up having 12 puppies. Check them out. They was cute. Yes, look at them. I didn't know anything about whelping. I had no idea. Like, apparently you have to have the dog on the nipple for a long time. It's really amazing. Anyway, all of these dogs went home they went with some great families and all that. It was amazing. Like, I was like, yo, guys, we're going to take off. We're going to go to the next level. And then life started lifing. And then I realized that dogs, in many ways, are livestock. And so they have to be taken care of. Bags of food were expensive. They were getting grain-free kibble back then, which was amazingly expensive. And so we just kept on running into obstacle after obstacle. Like there was local regulations that we were having issues with. We were having problems because it took a lot of effort and energy. It was a huge emotional weight that was on Sarah and I and many of the Kindle partners at that time. So we ended up having all of these high hopes and expectations, and eventually after a few years had to shut the Kindle down. So we had huge expectations to be a great breeder, but then we started to settle for just going to dog shows. Now, I know that many of you are not dog breeders. I know that that's not your desire. That's not your lot in life. But you do have a story very, very similar to that, where you were hoping to have you had really big hopes and expectations. And then once life started lifing, it knocked you down off of that pedestal, and it wore you out in ways that you couldn't even imagine. Maybe you were hoping for a man by this time. You were like, God, let him be 6 foot. But if he can't be 6 foot, at least let him be 5'10". Let him be physically fit, and let him love Jesus and all these things. And time has gone on, and some of us are like, God, I'll just take a man. I'll just take a man. I mean, a job is optional. I don't even mind putting on my hard hat and doing a renovation project, Jesus, because I can help save him. I've got the ability to do that, right? So, some of us are like that. Some of us are like, man, God, I've been waiting. I want to start this business, or I want to go back to school. And then you got that first paper and you were like, nah, I don't know if this is for me. Maybe I need to rethink this. You had a dream of launching a business. And so you filed the paperwork and you went back and forth to figure all that out. And then you had to pay taxes. And then you had employees, and then you realized that a job was much more easy than being an entrepreneur. And so now you're like, God, I'll just take any old job. It doesn't even matter. Or maybe, friends, you were hoping to get pregnant. You finally had that child. You were like, yes, Jesus, I'm going to be the best parent ever. No screen time for this child. I'm going to read books all day. They're going to get organic diapers and organic baby food. A few weeks later, you put that tablet in front of that kid more than a computer software engineer. Like it's where we had these high expectations and these high goals. And then once life hit, we began to settle for a version of life that was much simpler and different from the one that we really desired before. And so these are things that people say when they feel like they're settling in life. You might want to write these down. Here's something people say. They say, maybe this is the best I can do. Maybe this is the best I can do. This is the best opportunity that's going to come up. I might as well take it. Oh, this isn't that bad. Or we try to trick ourselves into believing that a situation is one way when it's really another way. Or we say things like, oh, I can work it out. I can make this work, friends. This is what I'm saying some of us are doing, is we're settling for a life that's less than the one that God has prepared for us, because we have not taken enough leaps in faith and believing in his trust and ability to bring it to light, because we are playing it safe. But here's the big idea I have for you today. Here it is. You have no idea what God may produce through a single seed planted in faith. You have no idea of what God can do if instead of staying comfortable in our zones of influence, we did things in faith, believing that God was going to make the intangible tangible. So I want to talk to those folks today who feel like in some ways they're settling. So we ran into this couple in the Old Testament. Their name is Abraham and Sarai. Her name was later changed to Sarah. And they had, like most couples that were married, they had big dreams. They were having children. They were expecting to have a bunch of children, and it was amazing. But they ran into a problem. They couldn't conceive. Can you imagine struggling with conceiving and then being in a crew with everyone that is conceiving? Like you can feel the emotional nature of what's happening here. They've been married for so long, but they're unable to have children, and it's just devastating to them. So in Genesis 12, God tells Abraham, he speaks to him. He says, hey, I want you to know that I'm going to make you the father of many nations. And so the hope that he had was renewed because God gave him a word. That's what happens with us sometimes. We feel something in our heart, and then it's confirmed through the scripture or through someone who did not know about our situation, and then we get all excited about it. He's like, oh man, I'm gonna have a kid. And so they start picking out baby names. They were like Hassan. No, that ain't it. King. No. We gotta come up with something else. And they begin picking out these baby names. They begin planning their nursery theme and their gender reveal, and all this stuff happens, and then months go by. And then 1 month turns into 2 months. And then 2 months turns into a year. And then a year turns into 10 years. And then 10 years turns into 20 years. And here they are for 20 years experiencing unfulfilled promises and dashed hopes. And here's the thing. Many of us have our own version of that story, don't we? Because we're living in this tension right now between promise and fulfillment. We believe God has promised us specific things through his scriptures and what we believe he's going to do, but we haven't seen the fulfillment of that very thing yet. Some of us have been praying to get out of debt and to get a better paying job so that we can practice some of the Dave Ramsey principles and get a nest egg and all that, but we found ourselves in the same terrible financial position. Or maybe you've been praying for so long for someone that you know to come to salvation and it hasn't happened. And you've been like, God, where are you at and what are you doing? But let me just say this, before you go and settle, let me tell you 5 things that God is doing, okay? 5 things that God is doing while you wait on him to bring the promise to fulfillment. Are you ready? Here's the first one. Number 1, God is growing your faith. God is growing your faith. The question that comes to mind is, why did God wait so long to give Abraham and Sarah a child? Well, if they didn't wait, it wouldn't have required faith. It would have required celebration. I don't know about you, but I've been fighting the dad body for a while. I tell you this because this is a therapy session. Y'all didn't know that, but hey, here we are. Here we are. Been fighting the dad body for a while, primarily because I was looking at the way I looked in the YouTube videos about a year ago, and I was looking pudgy, and I was like, nah, I'm not going out like this. Nah, I'm not. And so my trainer started having me do these HIIT workouts, these high-intensity interval training workouts. And so I don't know if you know, but I'm in the gym. I'm in Planet Fitness because I'm too cheap to play the money anywhere else because I like that $10. Amen, somebody. Recovering cheapskate, I'm there. I need a crew just for myself. And so I'm in there. I'm doing burpees, y'all, and I'm getting my heart rate up to as high as it can go. And then I'm taking a little bit of break. And then I'm working out, and then I'm taking the dumbbells, and I'm doing the lunges and all that type of stuff and going for it. Almost pulled my calf the other day. And as soon as I'm done, guess what? I am exhausted, worn out. You know why? Because each time I stretch, and each time I lift a dumbbell, my muscle is literally tearing. And the reason the muscle is tearing because it's being stretched to its brink. It's being stretched to a place that it simply cannot go anymore. But once that stretched muscle has healed, it becomes stronger and stronger. Does that make sense? And so what's happening is faith in many ways is like a muscle. The only way that it grows, the only way that it's nurtured is that it has to be exercised. So when you feel like God is wearing you out with adverse circumstances and you become weary with all the stuff that's happening in your life, don't just think God is mad with me, think God is stretching me. Because what he has for me in the future is greater than what my faith can handle in the present. And so, friends, if he stretches me now, that means I'll have the capacity to handle what he wants to do in the future. Does that make sense? The other reason why God did not bless Abraham and Sarah with a kid right then and there is because he wanted to point you and I, the eventual reader, to the beauty of Jesus. Because each story in the Bible is telling us a story about this coming king named Jesus that's come to save us from our sin. So Abraham conceives with his wife Sarah when they are 190, he's 100 and she's 90. I couldn't even imagine. I'm 38 having another kid, and I'm just like, baby, are you sure you wanted to start over? Whose idea was this? Was this your idea, babe? This was your idea. You seduced me. I am not a piece of meat. You will respect my body. I'm holy. Taking advantage of me in my lowest state. She's not here to defend herself, so she was weary today. I said, babe, you might want to stay at home. Um, guys, y'all let me go on these rabbit trails, and then I forget, like, what I'm talking about. If she was here. Faith. Anyway. What is it? Oh, yeah, Abraham's 100 years old. Nursing a baby. Oh my gosh, when my wife has the baby, I'm gonna just wake up temporarily and just kind of pat her on the back like, you're doing a good job, bitch. She's like, get your hands off me. 100 years old. But I don't know if you know, I'm no gynecologist, but I know that it's very difficult to conceive at 90 years old. You could almost say that the womb is not alive at that point, right? But out of the womb, this old age womb, God brings forth life. And this is a picture of Jesus, of how Jesus was dead in a tomb, but out of the deadness of that tomb, God brings forth the light of the world. So not only is this a picture of him stretching our faith, but it's also a picture of what God would do eventually to save us 2,000 years later. Does that make sense, friends? And so when you're like, oh man, why am I facing these trials and these tribulations? Like I had a hard week this week. But I said temptation, I said trials. I said, God, don't waste this pain. Use this pain as a means of chiseling my character, of building my influence, and giving me a tender heart so that I will be receptive to what you're doing and building other people. So when you get the pain and the hardship in your life, it's not because God is trying to break you, it's because he's trying to stretch you for what he has for you. Does that make sense, friends? I don't know if you ever had a cast on your body, but when you have a cast on your body, the doctors want you to make sure you do some type of movement, if possible, so that you don't get atrophy. Because if your muscle gets atrophy and it becomes still for too long, you begin to lose muscle mass, and it no longer is stretchy and pliable like it is. And the same thing it is with faith. Is that when you have faith, it's got to be stretched, and it's got to be tried, and it's got to be pushed. But here's the thing, you can do some recovery for your faith. You can do some recovery for your muscle. You can take protein and nutrients, and that'll help heal your body. But the truth is with your faith, God gives you a nutrient called Jesus. And Jesus helps you to heal up and to let you know that even though I'm pushing you, and even though I'm stretching you, it's because I have something for you. It takes faith, friends. Here's the second thing I want to let you know of. God reminds us that faith and failure can coincide with one another. I know we love Abraham, but man, Abraham is jacked up. And I love it. I love that the Bible is not a book full of heroes, because I don't need no heroes. I like that Peter betrayed Jesus, because it makes me know that even when in my weakest moments, and I betray Jesus, there is forgiveness for me. I like to see young, prideful Joseph, because it lets me know that even if I'm prideful, God can break that, and he still has a plan for our life. But here in this passage, I want you to know that Abraham was jacked up. At least 5 times, Abraham did some wild stuff. Some stuff that could get him a reality TV show. One time he lied, he does this twice actually. He lies to a king that it says that he's not his wife, or that she is not his wife. Twice. And then one time, he decides to have an affair with Sarah's handmaiden. Dude was messed up. But here's the beautiful thing. Each time he fell down, God said, I still have a plan for your life. I still have for it. You know why it's encouraging? Because it reminds us that our lives are not going to be unbroken sets of successes. You are not going to go from mountaintop to mountaintop. I don't know who lied to you. You're not going to go through mountaintop to mountaintop, because there are things that you learn in the valley that you can't learn on the mountain. Oh, yeah. There's things that you learn in the posture of pain that you cannot experience in the excitement of prosperity. Because when you're prospering, you overlook all the things that are wrong and often take what God is doing for granted. But when you're in the valley, you begin to look up to those mountains and say, man, I remember when it was like this. God, if you bless me with this again, I promise you I won't take it for granted. Here's the thing, plants don't typically grow at the top of mountains, but they typically grow in the valley because the soil is fertile. Here's the thing. Sometimes God will have you on the mountain, but he'll take you into the soil of the fertilized faith in the valley so that he can build you and shape you and develop you and let you to know that, yea, though you walk through the valley, I'm going to be with you. Yeah, you're going through hardship, but I got your back. I've sustained you. I've got what you need. And so what's happening is like, he's like, yo, Abraham, I know you faltered and I know you've messed up, but I've still got your back. And God is letting us know, like, yeah, you might have messed up. Yeah, you did some wild stuff. Yeah, and you wrong and you need to repent. But I still have a plan for your life that includes saving you and bringing you into my family so I can accomplish my purpose and my will towards you. Does that make sense, friends? Here's the third one. Third one is, this is what God is doing. Before you settle, here's some stuff God is doing. God is working when you can't see anything happening. Woo! A lot of us believe, because we judge our life by external markers, we believe that God isn't doing anything, right? So this entire decade had passed, and maybe 20 years, there's no sign of the fulfillment at all. And just imagine, they've been praying and asking God for a child and believing in God for a miracle. And some of us are the same way. You're believing in God for a miracle. You're believing for him to do that thing. You know what that thing is, don't you? It's that thing that takes up your mental real estate. It's the thing that occupies your mind. You've been doing it. You've been pondering and you've been thinking about it. And you're like, God, where are you? God, when is it going to be my turn? God, I got the same education that my coworker has and they get the promotion and I don't. Lord, we both, me and him, like that same girl, but he got her and I didn't, right? We all have these type of things where we're like, God, you've done it for others. When is it going to happen for me? Here's what I want you to know. Just because you don't see anything happening doesn't mean that God isn't doing something. Doesn't mean that. Like, he always gives these metaphors of seeds, but in order for something to grow into a tree, that seed has to go into a ground. And then once it goes into a ground, guess what it does? It dies. It has to die. The shell comes off. Y'all getting a biology lesson today. Hopefully I get this right. Don't write me an email. If you do need to write me an email because I got some of this wrong, you can write it to jjulian@acceleratechurch.tv or Addie@acceleratechurch.tv. That'll be a good. But what I'm saying is the seed goes into the ground and it dies. And before it comes through the ground or the soil, it has to take root. It's got to take root. And what God is doing, he's working in ways that might be invisible to us, but that doesn't mean that he's not working. And here's what you got to know. Sometimes you don't want to see God working immediately. You know why? Because if he met all of your expectations, he could never exceed them. I need God to exceed, or I want him to exceed some expectations. And here's what I know about God, is he does his best work behind the scenes, and he does his best work in darkness. How do I know? Because he overshadowed the womb of a virgin named Mary. He overshadowed her, and out of the darkness of that womb, the light of the world came forth. The light of salvation. In the darkness of that tomb, Jesus moved it out of the way, took off his grave clothes, and the light of the world, the salvation of the world came forth. What I'm saying is God does his best work in ways and in the darkness that we can't see. He's still working on you. He's still working in your life. He's still got something for you. Here's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day. I was going to preach it. But I decided not to at the last minute because I didn't want to rewrite the whole sermon and have everybody do it. But here's what I was thinking. Just a thought I was thinking. I don't even know if it's tied to the sermon, but I'm going to tell you anyway. Is that the women who were following Jesus decided that after the Sabbath day that they were going to go anoint his body with oil. And they said, we have one problem. Is that no one is there to move away the tomb. Who's going to remove the tomb out of the way so that we can take this frankincense and myrrh and we can anoint the body of Jesus and prepare him for burial? Now, initially when I looked at that, y'all, I was like, man, see, this is the product of trauma. Because at times trauma will have you moving more quickly than you need to, and you don't think about all of the different issues that you'll face. And then I realized, no, this ain't trauma, this is faith. Because she's anticipating that the problem she's going to have is going to be solved before she even gets there. Let me just help somebody here today. I know that you think that God is not moving, but you think it's a problem, but he's already put a plan in place to solve the problem that you're experiencing before you've even got there. He's already got a plan in works. He's already working on the heart of that realtor. He's already working on somebody's heart so that he can bring favor in your life. Are y'all hearing me, church? God is working even when you can't see him doing so. Here's the fourth one. God is widening our limited perspective. He's in his tent. He's complaining. It's like, God, when is it going to be my turn? And then God does three things I think is amazing. He takes him outside. He tells him to look up and count the stars. Let me tell you again. He's complaining about a situation. God takes him outside. He tells him to look up, and he tells him to count the stars. You know why he took him out of the tent? Because he had to take him out of an uncomfortable place and put him in another place so that he could feel sorry for himself and start looking at what God is actually doing. He said, I need to get you out of this tent. I need to get you out of this position, because apparently this is limiting your ability to see what I'm able to do. So he takes him out of the tent, and then he says, I want you to take your physical eyes and look up. And so in other words, when you look up, you're not looking around to all that's going wrong in your life. You're not complaining about all the problems. You're not complaining about all the issues and the difficulties. You're looking and focusing your attention to the person that's able to handle all of those issues. See, we have to become faith-filled people that don't complain about how big our problems are, but we can boast because of how big our God is and his ability to do things that we can't even comprehend. Then he says, I want you to look at the stars. He's like, he was asking him to do something he was incapable of doing, right? Because even though he was doing it on his own, God had the ability to help him do it even when he couldn't. What I'm saying is, friends, is that even though you may feel right now that you can't do it and that you're worn out, God gives us the faith and the agency to deal with the difficult issues in our life. Are y'all hearing me today, church? And this is what he says. Here's what I want you to know. Is that Abraham is thinking about having a son. But God is not thinking about multiplication, or God is not thinking about addition. He's thinking about multiplication. He has a limited perspective. He's thinking about having a kid, but he's saying each of us, according to Galatians 3:29, is seed of Abraham. When we put our faith in Jesus, we become part of Abraham's heir. So that means we are valued and we are loved, and God has a plan for us. So Abraham's not thinking about the thousands of years later and the legacy that he's going to build through faith. Do you see what I'm saying, friends? Is that when you have a limited perspective, you miss out on what God is doing in eternity because you want what you want in that instant. Here's my fifth one, and the band can come because I'm done and I'm sweating in this hoodie up here. Here's the fifth one. God wants you to avoid making a miracle for yourself. Ooh, some of us just know how to go out there, and when it's not working out, we go out there and we could just do it ourselves. We're like, well, this job ain't working out. I'll just get another job. I'll just take on another load. This thing isn't going my way. Well, I'm just going to, we just make decisions in haste at times. But here's the thing. I would rather wait on God than wish that I had waited on God. It's hard to wait, but it's even harder to deal with the consequences of being impatient. It's even more difficult to wish you had waited on God and have to settle for less because you chose to take crumbs instead of the sumptuous meal. So what I'm saying, friends, is Abraham was like, you know what? I'm getting tired. I'm getting frustrated. I'm going to deal with this problem. I'm going to go sleep with my wife's handmaiden, her servant, and we're going to have a baby. We're going to count that as our child. And they thought that was a good idea. But guess what? Didn't work out like that. It kind of went awry. It went really, really bad. It caused all this infighting in his home and all this pain. And here's the thing. I don't know about you, but I don't want to pay any dumb tax. Like, there's some taxes you have to pay in life because God is trying to expand you and grow you. But I don't want to pay the type of dumb tax that comes because of my impatience or my lack of ability to wait on God to make the intangible tangible. And so he goes and decides that he's going to sleep with the handmaiden. They have Ishmael. God still blessed it and all that type of stuff, but it caused some unnecessary strife in his life. And listen, friends, I know that you feel like you're waiting in life. And I know that you feel limited right now with your options and with what's transpiring. But I want to encourage you, wait on God. Wait on him. Because he has the ability to do far more than we can ever ask or imagine. Don't settle for that relationship when you're in that dating stage, when you see those red flags that are unaddressed. Don't settle. Don't let loneliness get the best of you and decide to pursue something you know is not God's best for you. Like sometimes you do have to do what you have to do. You got to take a job that you don't necessarily want, but don't stop pursuing what God has for you simply because you have to make ends meet in this season. Don't give up on the dream that God has given you because you allowed circumstances to choke it out. What I'm saying is put some water on your dream, friends. Yes, it's died in the sea of pain, and yes, it's died in the field with trials and tribulations, just baking it, but put some water of faith on it and believe that even though I don't see it now, God will bring it to fruition. And friends, I'll be honest with you. I don't know how God is going to help us find an HQ or bring on a staff member or find a permanent facility. I don't know how, but here's what I do know, is that we're believing in God that when we take up this unlimited offering, that when we as a team say, hey, on top of what we give to our tithes and offering, we're going to pray and ask God what we should give towards this, that he's going to exceed our expectations and that he's going to unlimit a church that in some ways has been limited. That he's going to give us what we need so that we can continue to expand our reach and our impact so that we can reach the 6.2 million people in the South Jersey region. Listen, I love the 350 people here, but what if 350 can become 3,000? What if your kids and your grandkids and your friends can come to meet Jesus and have a life-giving relationship? We're not in this to be a monument or a little church. We're in this so that we can be a movement that's sweeping through this region and see people who are far from Jesus meet him. And that's going to happen through your generosity. So I'm not going to ask you for money because I don't do that. But I'm going to ask you to do this. I want to ask you to pray. Pray and ask God, God, what should we give to this unlimited offering so that we can see the gospel run in this region and so that we can help reach the people in Accelerate City with the gospel. Amen.